That was great. I feel awake now. Awesome. Good morning, Metro. Today's reading is from Luke 18, verses 1 through 8, the parable of the widow and the unjust judge. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to track down the translation by the inimitable Dr. Will Gaffney, so my apologies. We're going with the analog RSV. When Jesus told them a parable about their need to pray, always and not to lose heart, he said, "In a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor had respect for people. In that city there was a widow who kept coming to him and saying, 'Grant me justice against my opposer, my abuser, my adversary.' For a while he refused, but after a while he said to himself, 'Though I have no fear of God and no respect for anyone, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will grant her justice so that she may not wear me out by continually coming.' And the Lord said, 'Listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long in helping them? And I tell you, he will quickly grant justice to them. And yet, when the Son of Man comes, he will find faith on the earth.'" Thank you, the word of God for the people of God.
Good morning, Metro. It's actually, where did she go? It's actually very close to Will's version. Yeah, and you know that's the only version I use, so I got you. I'm just, so making a way. I think many of you know by now, and if you don't, you'll find out, that I'm an educator and a trainer and an organizer with the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond. It's it's an organization founded over 40 years ago by two black men in New Orleans. And one of the signature workshops is the Undoing Racism workshops. And I'm going to read you a little snippet from the website because they say it much better than I do. Participants will experience a humanistic process for laying a foundation to explore how we have been racialized, socialized, and conditioned to think about race and racism. We have a list of principles that we use to frame our work, and one of those principles is analyzing power. And we take participants in the workshop through conversations about power. Who has it? How do they use it? Where'd they get it from? And who experiences the impact of the usage of that power? Now, in our society, people talk a lot about privilege, white privilege, and I get it. But that's usually where the conversation ends. And I'm not white. I don't know if you noticed. I'm not. I have a lot of privilege, though. I'm English speaking. I'm a Christian. Access to a car. I work a 9 to 5. And this is the one that really elevates me. I'm tall. I have tall privilege, right? People respond to me in a particular way because I'm almost 6 feet tall. It's true, right? It's true. But what I don't have the kind of power that extends outside of the role that I have in this pulpit or outside of the title on my business cards. People out in the street don't care that I'm Reverend so-and-so or Senior Director of Social Transformation. They don't really care about that. I am seen as illegitimate. And in the workshop, when we talk about power, we say that power is having legitimate access and collective control. And in the history of this country, I definitely don't have that kind of legitimate access. Don't fry your brain over it. This is just how one definition of power. And it's usually difficult because people think of power as this, right? If you've been watching the Olympics, you've seen some incredible displays of power. Katie Ledecky holding that record for 4 years, 4 Olympics. That's 16 years that she's been swimming and get in that same event. That's power. I've been watching shot put and javelin. One of my favorite events is weightlifting. Have you watched judo? Like, that's incredible power. And let's talk about the boxer from Algeria. That's a powerful woman, right? Power. But that's not the kind of power that I'm talking about. I'm talking about who has the ability to roam through CVS without being followed and who does not. Who has to have the talk with their children about what to do and what not to do when they interact with law enforcement, and who does not? Who is assumed to be drug-seeking when they complain about pain, and who is not? Whose girl children are adultified and whose boy children are diagnosed at a higher rate than any others with oppositional defiant disorder and treated as if something is wrong with them instead of treated as if something wrong has happened to them. That's what it means to have power in our society. And then there's the questions like, why? Why? Who's being disempowered, and how do they make a way out of no way in the midst of the process of disempowerment? And how do those of us who are invested in equity walk alongside and support those folks? Some of whom may be us as well. This widow, she knew, even as she was being disempowered in a society that was told to take care of the widow and the orphan, she knew who to go to when she felt like she wasn't getting justice. And she knew how to get their attention. So did she protest? Did she march? Did she sit outside of the judge's home and hold a sign that said, "Give me justice"? I don't know. I know she was persistent. She also knew the judge wasn't doing his job. And in her persistence, she reminded him of his responsibility. Now the thing about the judge is very interesting. He's supposed to be an arbiter of justice. And what does he say? I don't fear God. I don't revere God. I don't pay God any mind. Not a thought. Imagine a judge, a leader, a principal, a preacher, an officer, a business owner, a manager, a director, a partner in a relationship, a politician. Imagine not fearing or revering God. The judge also said, I don't respect anybody. Now, there is the Aretha Franklin respect. Then there's also the word respect itself, which means just to see, spect, anew, respect. The judge didn't even see people in a different light based on his position. He didn't see anybody. But that widow made him see her because she was motivated and she was educated and she had a sense, even as she was being ignored, even as she had an accuser who was just running away scot-free, she had a sense of her inner power. There was something within that was holding the reins. Now, I was going to tell you about how many times the prophets and the Lord tell the people to watch out for, support, protect, and feed the widow and the orphan. You can do that on your own. BibleGateway.com. You can just go search the word widow. I'll just tell you that it happens a lot. Because God already knew what was going to happen to the widow and the orphan. And I'm going to assume that this widow knew this. She knew history. She knew what was supposed to be happening. And she was motivated by her understanding of justice. Give me justice against this person who has done me wrong. And here's the thing about power and disempowerment. I honestly don't think that she needed the kind of help that we offer to people who have been disempowered. Because you know what happens? We create programs for people. I don't think she needed a widow empowerment group that met every Thursday at 7 o'clock. I don't think she needed that kind of empowerment. She felt it within. What she needed was for somebody who had the kind of power that the judge had to be seen as legitimate in her town, in her city, in her village, and to use that power to fight on her behalf, to share what they had with her so she could just get on with her life. Okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? To be powerful, to have power in our society, there's a man who is now frolicking with the ancestors. His name is Reverend Joseph Barnt. He was a Lutheran preacher, and he's an OG in the anti-racist organizing world. And I'd worked with him, and I'd heard him say often, and he was a white man, and he would say, power is scrumptious. It's scrumptious to be able to do all the things I listed before without any kind of interference. He said it was scrumptious. And I often describe power as my mother's pound cake. So earlier this week, came home from work, there were 6 eggs and 2 sticks of butter sitting on the counter. Now, I've known my mother for 50 plus years. I know what it means when there's 2 sticks of butter and 6 eggs sitting on the counter. That means that she's getting her ingredients at room temperature because she is about to make that pound cake. That pound cake is delicious. Scratch. We don't do box cooking in my house. It is scratch. When I'm in the workshop, I often tell people that power is as delicious as my mother's pound cake. However, instead of hoarding it, I want everyone to get a taste of it. I want everyone to experience what I've been able to experience my entire life, that pound cake. That's what this widow wanted. She wanted the judge to take the scrumptious power that he was holding and share it with her so she could experience justice. Scrumptious, delicious justice that should have been rolling down like rivers at a mighty stream. That's what she wanted. Here's the other thing, the last thing that she teaches us. Nobody who has been shoved to the margins of our society needs our pity or deserves criticism because of what they don't have. Nobody who has been shoved to the margins of society needs our pity or deserves our criticism because of what they don't have. Or more like because of what we think they should have and they don't have. What they need is more power. More access to all the things that people who are seen as legitimate have, so they don't have to make a way out of no way. And if you've ever made a way out of no way, if you've ever had to make $1 out of 15 cents, then you know what it's like, and you shouldn't have to. We live in the richest, most resourceful country in the world, and yet there are people sleeping on the street. There should be a way that the way is already made. Now, I don't know anything about this woman's widowhood. She could have been a young, childless widow with a house full of cats. But she didn't deserve our criticism or our pity. Sometimes we focus so much on what people don't have based on our assumptions and what we believe people should have that we forget what's already in their hands. I would like to imagine, in my baptized imagination, that this widow belonged to a network of widows, and they got together one night at a consciousness-raising group, and they were talking about how she had experienced injustice, and they said, you know what? You need to go get that judge. We got your back, sister. Go get him. The determination to live within the confines of abuse and oppression tells me that at her core, she was able to maintain a sense of herself. I hear this widow say, you can get out of my way as I attempt to reclaim my power, as Maxine Waters has taught us, reclaiming our time, or you can set up an environment that helps me reclaim my power. Because, Judge, in doing so, you're also reclaiming something that you've lost along the way. You've lost your way. You've given in to the scrumptiousness of power. The judge says, and it's not in the translation, but the judge says, I'm going to give in to this woman because if I don't, she's going to give me a black eye. It's the Greek. She's going to give me a black eye. Now, I cannot say whether this is metaphorical or literal. I can say, though, I can understand. I don't agree with violence. I work in an anti-violence field. However, if that's what it takes to get justice, so be it. But it took that much for the judge to say, I'm going to give her what she wants. It shouldn't have to take that much. Again, she was reminding him of who he was supposed to be. There's a quote, and I'm sure I've shared this with you before. It's from Lila Watson, who was an Aboriginal activist, and it's attributed to her, but she says, no, it came from the community. And the quote is this: if you've come to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come to help because your liberation is tied up with mine, then let us work together. Because you've got something to gain from walking alongside me as much as I have to gain from you being with me. The judge needed that widow to shake him out of his apathy, to remind him of something he had forgotten, ignored, and dismissed. And she just needed him to release and give the power. Today we're going to gather at the table to remember the one who came to tell this story to the people who were gathered, but also to remember the one and who called in the disempowered, the one who also called in the powerful. Frolic, my child, frolic. Call them in from the margins to stand at the center. Called in the widows to stand at the center with the judge. Called from the margins for the judge to come to the margins. Just call them to come together, to stand with the powerful. And as we gather around the table, and as Tiffany and Jana come to prepare the table, let us stand in solidarity with both of them. With both of them. Because our liberation is tied up with each other, so we can make a way together. Amen.